Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Nara Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudiraye Nashta Prayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtaki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. So dear devotees, welcome for these wonderful reading sessions of Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 2, and we are on text number 37. So Shukdev Goswami, he is concluding with this chapter with a very nice shloka. He is saying that Pibanti ye bhagavata atmanam satam kathamrita shravana puteshu samvrutam punanti te vishaya vidushashyam vrajanti tat charana saroruhantikam. So, let's read the translation and purport. Lakshmi Narayan Prabhu, please do the honors of reading the translation and purport both.
Hare Krishna Rupa.
Hare Krishna Dhanar Pranam Prabhuji.
Translation. Those who drink through oral reception, fully filled with the nectarian message of Lord Krishna, the beloved of the devotees, purify the polluted aim of life known as material enjoyment, and thus go back to Godhead, to the lotus feet of Him, the personality of Godhead. Purport. 1 second, Mataji. Purport. The sufferings of human society are due to a polluted aim of life, namely lording it over material resources. The more human society engages in the exploitation of undeveloped material resources for sense gratification, the more it will be entrapped by the illusory material energy of the Lord, and thus the distress of the world will be intensified instead of diminished. The human necessities of life are fully supplied by the Lord in the shape of food, grains, milk, fruit, wood, stone, sugar, silk, jewels, cotton, salt, water, vegetables, etc., in sufficient quantity to feed and care for the human race of the world as well as the living beings on each and every planet within the universe. The supply source is complete and only a little energy by human being is required to get his necessities into the proper channel. There is no need of machines and tools or heavy, huge steel plants for artificially creating comfort of life. Life is never made comfortable by artificial needs, but by plain living and high thinking. The highest perfectional thinking of human society is suggested here by Sukadeva Goswami, namely sufficiently hearing Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. For men in this age of Kali, when they have lost the perfect vision of life, this Śrīmad Bhāgavatam is the torchlight by which to see the real path. Srila Jiva Goswami Prabhupada has commented on the Kathamritam mentioned in this verse and has indicated Śrīmad Bhāgavatam to be the nectarian message of the personality of Godhead. By sufficient hearing of Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, the polluted aim of life, namely lording it over matter, will subside, and the people in general in all parts of the world will be able to live in a peaceful life of knowledge and bliss. For a pure devotee of the Lord, any topics in relation with his name, fame, quality, entourage, etc. are all pleasing. And because such topics have been approved by the great devotees like Narada, Hanuman, Nanda Maharaja, and other inhabitants of Vrindavana, certainly such messages are transcendental and pleasing to the heart and soul. And by the constant hearing of the messages of the Bhagavad-gītā and later of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, one is assured herein by Srila Sukadeva Goswami that he will reach the personality of Godhead and render him transcendental loving service in the spiritual planet of the name Goloka Vrindavana, which resembles a huge lotus flower. Thus, by the process of Bhakti Yoga, directly accepted, as suggested in this verse, by sufficient hearing of the transcendental message of the Lord, the material contamination is directly eliminated without one's attempting to contemplate the impersonal Virat conception of the Lord. And by practicing Bhakti Yoga, if the performer is not purified from the material contamination, he must be zero devotee. For such an impostor, there is no remedy for being freed from material entanglement. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the second canto, second chapter of the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam entitled The Lord in the Herd. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you. So there are two main benefits in this particular shloka. He's mentioning that two main benefits of, in fact, sadhana bhakti. One is purifying their polluted aim of life. What is the polluted aim of life? Actually, they have material enjoyment. They want material enjoyment. So that is the polluted aim of life. And second is, once they are purified, what will happen? They will attain the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. So finally now, actually, Shukdev Goswami says, what is this benefit of hearing and chanting? He says that those who drink the sweet nectarian pastimes of this Krishna Katha of the Lord and his devotees, both using the cups of the ears, of his ears. So the ears are like what? 2 cups. So then there will be 2 results that are told in this particular shloka. What that what has been contaminated by all this Vishay, bhoga and all, by hearing Krishna Katha, the hearts will become cleansed and eventually they will attain the lotus feet of the Lord and they will become fit for the service of the Supreme Lord. So, when, this word, very specific word over here is, where did I read it? Punanti. Punanti means it will purify. So, this Punanti te Vishaya Vishuddhatma. So, this particular, this is that, that is actually Kleshagni and Shubhada both. When you say that Vrajanti Tat, so, so Krishna, and then he's saying that Sri Krishna Akarshani also. So, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, in his Madhurya Kadambini, he is describing that when this, creeper of Bhakti Lata, it starts sprouting, the first 2 leaves sprout out of that creeper is Klesha Agni and Shubhada. And the flower that starts coming out next, that they have actually compared to, Sudurlabha and Moksha Lagukrita. But this fruit of that tree is Sandrananda Vishetatma and Sri Krishna Akarshani. Because ultimately, one wants only fruit. One may ask if the ultimate goal is prema, then why is, Kleshagni and Shubhada, so things, are, there for, destruction of these miseries that we have, or we have been bestowed with some auspicious results. So Shubhada also has actually 2 parts. Sorry, Shubhada has 3 parts. I'm sorry. Getting various kinds of happiness. And one may ask that if the ultimate goal of this practitioner is to attain prema, then why give all these, intermediate results? So, in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu only, Srila Rupa Goswami is saying that the definition of Uttama Bhakti is Anya Abhilashita Shunyam Jnana Karma Navritam. So one should not have any material desires. Anya Abhilashita. Any material desires. And on one hand, you say that, the practitioner should not have material desires. But the other, that, pleasing Krishna on the other hand is the practice of bhakti. So first result that is coming out of this kleshagni is the destruction of this material miseries. And then the second thing that comes out is, this shubhada, material happiness. So why there is, this, intermediate result are there when the ultimate goal of our practice is to just attain prema. So, a sadhaka, he does not want to just worship the Lord to achieve any other desire other than actually pleasing him. So, that Anya Abhilasha Shunyam is there, but nevertheless, when this material miseries are removed, and when he gets this material happiness, he gets, that appreciation for that. He, there's a pat on his back that, oh, nice, nice. So for that, though he does not pray to Krishna to remove that material misery and give material happiness, but naturally, a sadhaka has not reacted the stage, or sorry, he has not reached to the stage of that, Paramhamsa. So there is appreciation by the practice of bhakti, and these miseries are removed, and there is appreciation. So when there is some material happiness is received by the practice of bhakti. So it is like an appreciation from Krishna's end. That, so though Krishna, therefore Krishna, even though he says bhakti is ana abhilashita shunyam, and that is the definition of uttam bhakti, but he understands this nature of a practitioner, that he will appreciate when material miseries are removed. And another reason is that why is this kleshagni or shubhada are like, like they are like milestones for him, with which a sadhaka can relate to very easily. So he is naturally tormented by miseries. He naturally gets happiness. And when some material pleasure comes, though he does not actually seek it, if he seeks it, then there is no longer, performing of Anya Abhilasha Shunyam. So, but if one comes on, if this thing comes on its own accord, one cannot deny that. So there is some relief, you can say, or some pleasure to this particular sadhaka. So these all other intermediate benefits are there because naturally a sadhaka has appreciation for that. And when those things those things come for that, and when those things are on the way of, affirming that yes, this process is working, my material miseries are getting over, and I'm getting some money. So the path is being practiced properly because some result is coming which this practitioner can relate to. So even in our lives, if you see that at least actually in my life, there were many miseries before I came into Krishna consciousness. Multiple miseries there were. Like my grandmother had expired and my father's business was doomed, and many other, financial misery, emotional misery. And as soon as we came into Krishna consciousness, these miseries reduced. Then again there were miseries. Again, Krishna, brought us out from the misery. Again there were miseries. So, these continuous removal of miseries, and then again, this is like, you can say that we were experiencing that, yes, this process is working, and we were able to relate with this particular process, that yes, because uh, the soul in itself wants happiness. That is his, birthright. But then because of some past karmas, you having miseries, uh, when this particular person takes up to Krishna consciousness, then it is like an added, you can say, perks for him, that okay, his miseries are removed, and he gets some happiness which he can relate to. It's like an appreciation given by the Supreme Lord to this particular jiva. So we are moving on to the next chapter, a very, very beautiful chapter. Now you see, the very name of this chapter is Pure Devotional Service, the change in the heart. And we all devotees who are on this forum, we all are hankering for what? We're hankering for pure devotional service, right? And that is why we are there every day on this particular reading forum, that somewhere, some, striking point we will get about Krishna, where we will fall in love with Krishna, where we will every day fall in love with Krishna. It's not only 1 day, 2 day affair. We want to fall in Krishna eternally. It is not like that, okay, 10 minutes or 1 hour I will fall in love with Krishna, and the other 23 hours I will fall in love with Maya. No. We all are here for this. And for that, we need this change in the heart. The moment we have the change in our heart, when automatically we are actually pure, we are onto that particular pure path of serving the Supreme Lord selflessly for his pleasure. So this particular chapter is a beautiful chapter, and it is going to speak only about this. It is going to glorify pure devotional service. So you can say the glories of pure devotional service will be, elaborately explained. And this chapter has a lot many, insights and in-depth knowledge. So let's go straight to the text one. So now Srila Shukdev Goswami is actually answering to Parikshit Maharaj, and he's saying that evam etan nigaditam prushtavan yad bhavan mamaha nrinam yan mriniya mananam manushyu manishinam. Swati Mataji, please read this translation and purport both.
Hare Krishna Mother. Sri Sukadeva Goswami says, Maharaj Parikshit, as you have inferred from me as the duty of the intelligent man who is on the threshold of death, so I have answered you. Purport. In the human society all over the world, there are millions and billions of men and women, and almost all of them are less intelligent because they have very little knowledge of their soul. Almost all of them have a wrong conception of life, for they identify themselves with the gross and subtle material bodies, which they are not. In fact, they may be situated in different high or low positions in the estimation of human society. But one should know definitely that unless one inquires about his own self beyond the body and mind, all his activities in human life are total failures. Therefore, out of thousands and thousands of men, one inquire about his spirit self and thus consult the revealed scriptures like Vedanta Sutras, Bhagavad-gītā and Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. But in spite of reading and hearing such scriptures, unless one is in touch with self, realized spiritual master, he cannot actually realize the real nature of the self, etc. And out of thousands of men, some may know what Lord Krishna is in fact. In Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila 20.122 to 2023, it is said that Lord Krishna, out of his Out of his causeless mercy appeared Vedic literature in the incarnation of Vyasdeva for reading by the intelligent class of men in human society, which is almost totally forgetful of the genuine relation with Krishna. Even such as an intelligent class of men may be forgetful in their relation with the Lord. The whole Bhakti Yoga process is therefore a revival of lost relation. This revival is possible in the human form of life, which is obtained only out of evolutionary cycle of 84 lakh species of life. The intelligent class of human being must take a serious note of this opportunity. Not all human beings are intelligent, so the importance of human life is not always understood. Therefore, Manishinam, meaning thoughtful, is particularly used here. A Manishinam person like Maharaj Parikshit must therefore take to the lotus feet of Lord Krishna and fully engage himself in devotional service, hearing, chanting, etc. of the holy name and pastimes of the Lord, which are all Hari Kathamrita. This action is especially recommended when one is preparing for death. Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you.
Hare Krishna. So, Parikshit Maharaj is being advised by Srila Shukdev Goswami that he should take to the lotus feet of Krishna and fully engage himself in the devotional service of chanting, hearing the holy names and pastime of the Lord, which are all Harikathamrita. And see, we all are preparing for death, aren't we? Okay, because we don't know when death is going to come for us. Maybe after maybe 40 years, 50 years, but death is for sure, right? So we all are preparing ourselves for death. Because at the time of death, when we remember the Supreme, and it is a lifetime preparation for us. If death is an examination for us, then the lifetime is a preparation for that death. Because we'll be tested at the time of death. So we all are preparing for death. So then we have from 2nd shloka to 7th shloka, we have many shlokas. I won't read. Better is to read the translation only. Anup Prabhu, please read the translation and purport both.
Translation. One who desires to be absorbed in the impersonal Brahmajyoti effulgence should worship the master of the Vedas, Lord Brahma or Brihaspati, the learned priest. One who desires powerful sex should worship the heavenly king Indra, and one who desires good progeny should worship the great progenitors called the Prajapatis. One who desires good fortune should worship Durga Devi, the superintendent of the material world. One desiring to be very powerful should worship fire, and one who aspires only after money should worship the Vasus. One should worship the Rudra incarnations of Lord Shiva if he wants to be a great hero. One who wants a large stock of grains should worship Aditi. One who desires to attain the heavenly planets should worship the sons of Aditi. One who desires a worldly kingdom should worship Vishvadeva. And one who wants to be popular with the general mass of population should worship the Sadhya demigod. One who desires a long span of life should worship the demigods known as the Ashwini Kumaras. And a person desiring a strongly built body should worship the earth. One who desires stability in his post should worship the horizon and the earth combined. One who desires to be beautiful should worship the beautiful residents of the Gandharva planet. And one who desires a good wife should worship the Apsaras and the Urvashi society girls of the heavenly kingdom. One who desires domination over others should worship Lord Brahma, the head of the universe. One who desires tangible fame should worship the personality of Godhead. And one who desires a good bank balance should worship the demigod Varuna. If one desires to be greatly learned man, he should worship Lord Shiva. And if one desires a good marital relation, he should worship the chaste goddess Uma, the wife of Lord Shiva. Purport. There are different modes of worship for different persons desiring success in particular subjects. The conditioned soul living within the purview of the material world cannot be an expert in every type of materially enjoyable asset, but one can have considerable influence over a particular matter by worshipping a particular demigod, as mentioned above. Ravan was made a very powerful man by worshipping Lord Shiva, and he used to offer severed heads to please Lord Shiva. He became so powerful by the grace of Lord Shiva that all the demigods were afraid of him, until he at last challenged the personality of Godhead, Sri Ramachandra, and thus ruined himself. In other words, all such persons who aspire after gaining some or all of the material objects of enjoyment, or the gross materialistic persons, are on the whole less intelligent, as confirmed in the Bhagavad-gītā 7.20. It is said there that those who are bereft of all good sense, or those whose intelligence is withdrawn by the deluding energy of Maya, aspire to achieve all sorts of material enjoyment in life by pleasing the various demigods, or by advancing in material civilization under the heading of scientific progress. The real problem of life in the material world is to solve the question of birth, death, old age, and disease. No one wants to change his birthright. No one wants to meet death. No one wants to be old or invalid, and no one wants diseases. But these problems are solved neither by the grace of any demigod, nor by the so-called advancement of material science. In the Bhagavad-gītā, as well as in the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, such less intelligent persons have been described as devoid of all good sense. Shukadeva Goswami said that out of the 8.4 million species of living entities, the human form of life is rare and valuable. And out of those rare human beings, those who are conscious of the material problems are rarer still. And the still more rare persons are those who are conscious of the value of the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, which contains the messages of the Lord and his pure devotees. Death is inevitable for everyone, intelligent or foolish. But Parikshit Maharaj has been addressed by the Goswami as Manasi, or the man of highly developed man, or highly developed mind. Because at the time of death, he left all material enjoyment and completely surrendered unto the lotus feet of the Lord by hearing his messages from the right person, Shukadeva Goswami. But aspirations for material enjoyment by endeavoring persons are condemned. Such aspirations are something like the intoxication of the degraded human society. Intelligent persons should try to avoid these aspirations and seek instead the permanent life by returning home back to Godhead.
Yeah. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you so much. Such a powerful message Srila Prabhupada is giving, that human species also in that, rare are those people who are conscious. Still more rare are those people who are conscious of the value of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, which contains the messages of Lord and his pure devotees. This is a very powerful statement Prabhupada is making. Dharmarthottama shloka tantu tanvan pitrun yajeta raksha kama punya jananam ojas kamo marut gananan. Priyanka, please read this translation and quote of both.
Yes, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Translation. One should worship Lord Vishnu or his devotee for spiritual advancement and knowledge, and for protection of hereditary and advancement of a dynasty. One should worship the various demigods. Purport. The path of religion entails making progress on the path of spiritual advancement, ultimately reviving the eternal relation with Lord Vishnu in his impersonal effulgence. His localized Paramatma feature and ultimately his personal feature by spiritual advancement and knowledge. And one who wants to establish a good dynasty and be happy in the progress of temporary bodily relations should take shelter of the Pitas and the demigods in other pious planets. Such different classes of worshippers of different demigods may ultimately reach the respective planets of those demigods within the universe, but he also reaches the spiritual planets in the Brahmajyoti, achieves the but he who reaches the spiritual planets in the Brahmajyoti achieves the highest perfection. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you. So the next is Rajya kamo manundevan nikrutti dvavicharan yajeta kama kamo yajetso mam kama purusha param. Vrinda, please read this purport and translation both.
Translation. One who desires domination over a kingdom or an empire should worship the Manas. One who desires victory over an enemy should worship the demons. And one who desires sense gratification should worship the moon. But one who desires nothing of material enjoyment should worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Purport. For a liberated person, all the enjoyments listed above are considered to be absolutely useless. Only those who are conditioned by the material modes of external energy are captivated by different types of material enjoyment. In other words, the transcendentalist has no material desires to be fulfilled, whereas the materialist has all types of desires to be fulfilled. The Lord has proclaimed that the materialists who desire material enjoyment and thus seek the favor of different demigods, as above mentioned, are not in the control of their senses and so give themselves to nonsense. One should therefore not desire any sort of material enjoyment, being sensible enough to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The leaders of the nonsensical persons are still more nonsensical because they preach openly and foolishly that one can worship any form of demigod and get the same result. This sort of preaching is not only against the teachings of the Bhagavad-gītā or those of the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, but is also foolish, just as it is foolish to claim that with the purchase of any travel ticket, one may reach the same destination. No one can reach Bombay from Delhi by purchasing a ticket for Barodra. It is clearly defined herein that persons impregnated with different desires have different modes of worship. But one who has no desire for material enjoyment should worship the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead. And this worshipping process is called devotional service. Pure devotional service means service to the Lord without any tinge of material desires, including desire for fruitive activity and empiric speculation. For fulfillment of material desires, one may worship the Supreme Lord, but the result of such worship is different, as will be explained in the next verse. Generally, the Lord does not fulfill anyone's material desires for sense enjoyment, but he awards such benedictions to worshippers of the Lord, for they ultimately come to the point of not desiring material enjoyment. The conclusion is that one must minimize the desires for material enjoyment, and for this, one should worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is described here as Param or beyond anything material. Sripada Shankaracharya has also stated Narayana Paro Vyaktat. The Supreme Lord is beyond the material encirclement. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. So we have the next shloka. Oh, this is a very famous verse and a very wonderful verse where many devotees quote this verse again and again, time and again. akama sarva kamo va moksha kama udaradi tivrena bhakti yogena yajeta purusham param. Oh, who's left now? Neha, please read this translation and purport both.
Yes, Mataji. Translation: a person who has broader intelligence, whether he be full of all material desire, without any material desire, or desiring liberation, must by all means worship the Supreme Whole, the Personality of Godhead. Purport: the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna, is described in the Bhagavad-gītā as Purushottama, or the Supreme Personality. It is he only who can award liberation to the impersonalist by absorbing such aspirants in the Brahma-jyoti, the bodily rays of the Lord. The Brahma-jyoti is not separate from the Lord, as the glowing sun ray is not independent of the sun disk. Therefore, one who desires to merge into the supreme impersonal Brahma-jyoti must also worship the Lord by Bhakti Yoga, as recommended here in the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Bhakti Yoga is especially stressed here as the means of all perfection. In the previous chapters, it has been stated that Bhakti Yoga is the ultimate goal of both Karma Yogi and Jnana Yoga. And in the same way, in this chapter, it is emphatically declared that Bhakti Yoga is the ultimate goal of the different varieties of worship of the different demigods. Bhakti Yoga, thus being the supreme means of self-realization, is recommended here. Everyone must therefore seriously take up the methods of Bhakti Yoga, even though one aspires for material enjoyment or liberation from material bondage. A kama is one who has no material desire, a living being, naturally being the part and parcel of the Supreme Whole. Pursama Purnama has as his natural function to serve the Supreme Being, just as the parts and parcels of the body or the limbs of the body are naturally meant to serve the complete body. Desireless means therefore not to inert like this stone, but to be conscious of one's actual position and thus desire satisfaction only from the Supreme Lord. Srila Jiva Goswami has explained this desirelessness as Bhajanya Parama Purusa Sukha Matra Sava Sukhatam in his Sandarbha. This means that one should feel happy only by experiencing the happiness of the Supreme Lord. This intuition of living being is sometimes manifested even during conditioned stage of a living being in the material world. And such intuition is expressed in the manner of altruism, philanthropy, socialism, communism, etc. by the undeveloped mind of less intelligent persons. In the mundane fields such as outlook of doing good to others in the form of society, community, family, country, or humanity is a partial manifestation of the same original feeling in which a pure living entity feels happiness by the happiness of the Supreme Lord. Such superb feeling were exhibited by the damsels of Rajo Bhumi for the happiness of the Lord. The gopis loved the Lord without any return, and this is the perfect exhibition of the akama spirit. Kama spirit, or the desire for one's own satisfaction, is fully exhibited in the material world, whereas the spirit of akama is fully exhibited in the spiritual world. Thoughts of becoming one with the Lord or being merged in the Brahma Jyoti can also be exhibitions of Kama spirit if they are desires for one's own satisfaction to be free from material miseries. A pure devotee does not want liberation so that he may be relieved from the miseries of life. Even without so-called liberation, a pure devotee is aspirant for the satisfaction of the Lord. Influenced by Kama spirit, Arjuna declined to fight in the Kurukshetra battlefield because he wanted to save his relative for his own satisfaction. But being a pure devotee, he agreed to fight on the instruction of the Lord because he came to his senses and realized that satisfaction of the Lord at the cost of his own satisfaction was his prime duty. Thus, he became a calm. That is the perfect stage of a perfect living being. Udradhyan means one who has a broader outlook. People with desires for material enjoyment worship small demigods, and such intelligence is condemned in the Bhagavad-gītā 7.20 as Rata Janna, the intelligence of one who has lost his senses. One cannot obtain any results from demigods without getting sanction from the Supreme Lord. Therefore, a person with a broader outlook can see that the ultimate authority is the Lord, even for material benefits. Under the circumstances, one with a broader outlook, even with the desire for material enjoyment or liberation, should take to the worship of the Lord directly. And everyone, whether an Akam or Sakam or Mokshika, should worship the Lord with great expedience. This implies that Bhakti Yoga may be perfectly administered without any mixture of karma or jnana, as the unmixed sun rays is very forceful and is therefore called Tivra. Similarly, unmixed Bhakti Yoga of hearing, chanting, etc. may be performed by one and all, regardless of the inner motive. Jai Shri Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that wonderful reading. Very, very crystal clear reading you did. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So he's saying that, he's saying over here is a karma. So if one has no material desires, and sarva kama, if one has all material desires, or even moksha kama, so if one has desires even for liberation, any of these people, if they perform tivrena bhakti yogena, tivrena means with great force, with great determination, tivrena bhakti yogena means actually pure devotional service, he means to say. So, because if it was then pure devotional service, then how will be, this sarva kama, or, one who has many material desires, or moksha kami will fall in this actually category. So what this means is that bhakti is not anya abhilashita shunyam bhakti, but it is jnana karva anarvitam. It is not covered. So just like, if a river, if there is some, obstruction, and, obstructing that particular river, then the force of that river is compromised, right? So if jnana and karma is obstructing that river of bhakti, then that force of that river is not tivra, or with great force it is not going. So if it is uncovered, then it is tivrena bhakti yogena. So though material desires, so what is the obstruction? The obstruction is like material desires. So the material desires may be there, doesn't matter, but at least one should ensure that it is not covered by jnana and karma. So tivrena bhakti yogena, tivrena, with great force, with great determination, we should go ahead in, bhakti and do devotional service. So then if someone is sarvakami or akami or mokshakami, that does not matter. But if one performs jnana na karma anavritam bhakti, then he achieves those results. Srila Shukdev Goswami is saying that. So Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that he says akama, he says that akama sarva kama va moksha kama. But he says that there seems to be something wrong over here. So Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that akama is the purest. There means no material desire. It is the highest. Then the lowest must be then sarva kama, all material desires. And in between, must be, moksha kama. Then why the order is reversed? He's saying that it is that, is it for some, metrical reason, there's some meter reasons or something. If the meter is not satisfied, then if Sarva Kama comes last, is it that way? So no. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is saying that no. He says that the order is right. Akama is best. Sarva Kama is okay. But Moksha Kama is a strict no, no, no liberation. So, because it is the most detrimental of all these three, that is why it's a big no. So, when Srila Rupa Goswami was compiling Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu, and once Srila Vallabhacharya is visiting Srila Rupa Goswami, and Rupa Goswami shows this his book, that this is Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu book that I have compiled, and he is requesting Srila Vallabhacharya to edit that book. So Srila Vallabhacharya immediately gets into all the task right in front of Rupa Goswami, and one of the first verses that Srila Vallabhacharya sees is Bhukti Mukti Spriha Yavat Pishachi Ridhi Varante. So Tavat Bhakti Sukhasya Katham Matra. So Rupa Goswami says that when this ghost of Bhukti and Mukti, when they are within the heart of a sadhaka, then how can the bliss of Bhakti manifest in the heart of such a person whose heart is haunted by the ghost of Bhukti and Mukti? Bhukti means to enjoy, and Mukti is liberation, okay, for the new people. So Bhukti Mukti Spriha. So immediately Srila Vallabhacharya is objecting. How can you say this? All the great sampradayas glorify the path of Mukti. Mukti is Vaikuntha, the abode of the Supreme Lord. One achieves, Vaikuntha. How can you say that it is Pishachi? Politely Vallabhacharya says that I think you should consider correcting this particular, verse. So Srila Rupa Goswami says fine, and goes to the Yamuna and to take a bath. Then Srila Jeev Goswami is standing there, and he was the one who actually very much assisted Srila Rupa Goswami in compiling this whole Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu. And the first commentary to this Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu was written by Jiva Goswami. So he's waiting till Srila Rupa Goswami, leaves from there. And he goes, behind Srila Vallabhacharya and says that, wait, what Srila Rupa Goswami wrote is right. It's not wrong. He doesn't say that Bhukti and Mukti are a ghost. He says that Bhukti Spriha and Mukti Spriha. Spriha means desire. So the desire for Bhukti and Mukti is ghost. In itself, Bhukti and Mukti are not ghost, but the desire for that is a ghost. So Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that Bhukti Kami means he wants to achieve a very significant thing. And for that, he is willing to perform, with sacrifice and achieve it. But if a person is desiring liberation, who's Jnani, their tapasya is unimaginable. They want to give up all material miseries completely and achieve liberation. So therefore, their conviction in their process is much more stronger. Because they are totally convinced that this material world cannot give any pleasure. Therefore, their absorption is, much more. Their absorption is the absorption of fear. Whereas the absorption of a Bhukti Kami is the absorption of getting some material pleasure. And he says that the absorption for mukti is much more stronger than the absorption of bhukti. And therefore, it can be the most detrimental to one's one who has taken up to bhakti. Then this bhukti spriha, or the desire for sense gratification. So, even in the Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu, Rupa Goswami gives only 1 or 2 examples from the Shastras for bhukti spriha. But to prove that mukti spriya is detrimental, he is actually he is actually, he's saying that Rupa Goswami gives actually, proofs that see material attachment can be dovetailed in Krishna's service. Whereas if you see mukti spriha is material hatred. They have been, been burnt very badly by their endeavors for material happiness. And now they are absolutely convinced there is no happiness here. So their only happiness is, if I give up all these endeavors, I have to destroy these senses, which is the cause of my, entrapment here in this material world. So a person who is intended to use his own senses for sense gratification, that person can be guided to use his senses in Krishna's service. His desire can be dovetailed in Krishna's service, but for someone who wants to destroy his senses and achieve liberation, what is there to be dovetailed? So, because bhakti is, what is that shloka? Satisfying Krishna's senses, Rishikena Rishikesha Sevaya Bhakti Ruchate. So, the senses have to be there so that their activities can be dovetailed in Krishna service. But for a person who is absolutely convinced that the senses means entrapment, how to convince such a person to dovetail his senses in Krishna service? It is all the more very difficult. Therefore, mukti spriya is more detrimental than bhukti spriya. And the acharyas also have given the same verdict. So, mukti spriya takes the longest to go away. And Srila Rupa Goswami is mentioning 6 benefits of bhakti in Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu. And one of them is moksha lagukrit. To actually consider that moksha lagukrit is insignificant. To give up that desire for moksha happens only when one reaches the stage of bhava bhakti. It does not, happen on the platform of sadhana bhakti. So therefore, Srila Sukdev Goswami is actually describing the Bhagavatam, describes the extremes example of even this person who took up to bhakti in order to show that how powerful this path of bhakti. So it gives the examples of mukti karmis and not bhukti karmis. Because Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam also is confirming that these are the toughest people who can take up to bhakti in Canto 1. So when, the Shaunaka Rishis are astonished that how is it that Shukdev Goswami took up to this path of bhakti? Because he wanted liberation, right? He was an impersonalist. So Shukdev Goswami himself is confirming that even though I was fixed in Brahman, I took up to bhakti. And this desire for mukti means fear of suffering in this material world. Even persons' form of liberation or salokya. So which is benefit, of the service of the Supreme Lord. So, bhakti path outcrowds the material desires. It absorbs ourselves in bhakti yoga. So, this superficial bhakti we should not do. And we should actually try to enter our consciousness with our consciousness, and we should actually be doing bhakti. And that is why this bhakti is glorified throughout the Bhagavatam. The other paths are glorified, but bhakti is glorified to a very great extent in the Bhagavatam. And that's why, when we say that, the honey of his lotus feet, Krishna is giving. So not only, material desires will be fulfilled, but even spiritual desires are fulfilled. So these bhukti and mukti kamis, they are more of I-centered. Me. But bhakti is more of Krishna-centered. Krishna's pleasure, Krishna's enjoyment, giving pleasure to Krishna. That is pure bhakti. When we say that मैं Krishna की भक्त हूँ, so what are we trying to do? And if we are declaring ourselves that we are devotees of Krishna, then we are striving to please Krishna. What is pleasing to his senses? What is pleasing to his eyes? What is pleasing to every sense? What is pleasing to his ear? So what is pleasing to Krishna's ear? Chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra is very pleasing to Krishna's ears. That is his, satisfaction. Then what is more pleasing to see for his eyes? That he is seeing that all the devotees are serving the Paramhamsas or the higher place. So he's very pleased when he's seeing. And also he's very pleased to see all his devotees chanting his holy names in Sankirtan and offering. So he's very pleased to see his devotee doing arati and offering flowers or offering water or offering a fruit. That is his pleasure. And that is why Krishna in the Bhagavad-gītā is demanding us. Patram pushpam phalam toyam yomya bhaktya prayachati. He's demanding us from there because that is pleasing to him. That simple thing is very pleasing to him. So there are many other things we'll come across where what is pleasing to Krishna, we'll know in the Bhagavatam. That what is pleasing to every senses, what is pleasing, what is Krishna's inner desire, the heart's inner desire, we'll come to know slowly. So dear devotees, it is 10:15. I halt at this very important shloka. We will continue tomorrow, Thursday, at our usual timing, 9:15. And we'll continue and see what Srila Shukdev Goswami has to say further. And again, another elaborate explanations are there for the another consecutive 4-5 shlokas. Thank you so much, dear devotees. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Hare Krishna.
Krishna. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Pranam, Prabhu.